Hello, and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal podcast. I'm Jonathan Giles. On the show this week, in breaking news today, Brentford goalkeeper David Raya has joined on a season-long loan deal. In other big news this week, Dutch defender Jurrien Timber faces a lengthy layoff with a knee injury. Also on the show this week, we review our opening day 2-1 home win over Notts Forest and look ahead to next Monday night's fixture away to Crystal Palace. And a new feature to our podcast, we do an Irish Premier League watch where we look at our Irish Premier League internationals over the course of that weekend. It's just something to mix it up. So sit back and enjoy the show. On the show this week, my guests are seasonal guests at this stage. Eamonn Donnelly, welcome back to the show. How are you, pal?
Evening, Jonathan. Evening, Brandon. I just finished me Flinders crispy pancakes there. Gonna wash it down with a cup of Horlicks after the show. No, we're all good. Glad to be back. Glad the football is back. And glad the Dublin Arsenal podcast Meltdown is back. About other clubs spending money, and I'm glad of all of that. I missed it, so great to be back, and good to see you again, Brendan.
And you, mate.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, Eamonn. After it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since you were last on. I think it was with Ian Gunnery, so it's good to have you back, and hopefully over the course of the season. I'm also joined by Brendan Boyle, 3 in a row now, Brendan. So it's the shit gets real now for you on the show.
Absolutely. Are we expecting a little plaque or something?
Martin Stoneville, are you listening? An Arsenal fan pack to our good self, Brendan. How are you, Brendan? You having a good week, yeah?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah, not so bad. Thank you.
It's good to have you back on, Brendan. And yeah, it's a busy show in store for us. So we begin today with the breaking news that came out around 1 or 2 o'clock was today. We signed David Raya from Brentford on loan. It wasn't really as big as news. It's been going around the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it's nice to have him on a season-long loan deal and with an option to buy at the end of the season. I'll go to you, Eamonn. Happy with the signing for the season?
With the Ray for the season?
Yeah, David Ray, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm happy, and I tell you why. I love Aaron Ramsdale, but I don't think his position should be the only one on the team that's safe. For example, I love Ben White as well, and Ben White trains his way into the team, obviously every week, because he's either in the centre of the defence or the right-hand side of the defence, but he trains his way into the team through hard work every week. Gabriel lost out there at the weekend. I think that was tactical. But if their place is not safe, why should Aaron Ramsdale's? You know? But I do suspect there are worries about the ball at Ramsdale's feet. And Raya would be recognised as probably one of the best keepers in Europe with the ball at his feet. And I think that's going to play out, you know. Again, Ireland was almost caught the weekend again, and it's beginning to happen in most games, you know. And I think the source of that problem, Brendan, you might remember, it goes back to the Southampton game towards the back end of last season when we needed to win at home, and we threw away a goal after a minute through a pass down the middle, and I think that rang an alarm bell. I love Aaron Ramsdale. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. And he may well hold on to his place, and I have no problem with that. But he's now got the battle like everybody else.
Yeah, we were at the Brighton game at home at the end of last season, Eamonn, and Ramsdale made a couple of mistakes with his feet there, particularly the last 2 goals of Brighton's. Yeah. And like as he said himself after the Community Shield game, he says to the reporter, "Bring it on." When he was told about it, yeah. So you can see he's on to be pushed now, and I think it might just up his game. He's a super goalkeeper, you know. But yeah, I think a bit of competition.
As well as that, Jonathan, there's enough games as well, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, when you factor in the Champions League, League Cup, and FA, yeah, it is good to have competition. Yeah, it's a lot on one, it's a lot on one position, you know. Yeah. Brendan, we talked about this last week, myself and Martin as well. Are you happy that that's gone over the line now? That signing?
Absolutely. He's a very, very good goalkeeper. We've been after him for a couple of seasons, and I think Brentford didn't want to sell him the last time we were looking at him. And since then, I think he's only improved. He's got better and better, and other clubs have been in for him. Spurs got drafted out of the water with a really, really high quote, a very high price for him, and we've done a sensational deal, £3 million with an option to buy. It's a no-brainer. It's like if we don't want to buy him at the end of it, we can walk away, and it's only cost us £3 million, and we have a very, very good goalkeeper. I won't say a 1 or a 2. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I'd go with what Eamonn's saying on the Ramsdale thing. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I was in the ground for the Charity Shield about an hour or so beforehand, and it was very interesting to see the goalkeepers were out early, and they were playing the ball into Ramsdale's feet constantly, and it was really interesting. It was into his right foot, into his left foot, so they were really concentrating on his kicking, and I think when he first came, he was sensational. I think that was probably because Peter Cech or Bernd Leno weren't the greatest with the ball at their feet, so he was a upgrade on those two, and I think his passing has dropped off a little bit, and you know there's a few balls that he's knocked out into touch on a regular basis, so it can only push him, and I really liked what Eamon said about Ben White because it seems that there's always somebody going to come in for Ben White, and Ben White just steps up to the plate, plays his way through it, and is always in the team. And I absolutely love him, and he's so underrated. He's such a skillful football player, and I agree. I think everybody should have. If we want to be an elite club, as in winning leagues and Champions Leagues, we need to have players pushed constantly. Nobody should be allowed to rest on their laurels, no matter how much of a crowd favourite they might be. And I would put Gabriel Jesus into that sort of bracket as well. But yeah, I think like Ramsdale's only 24 years of age, a child in goalkeeping terms. So he can, fingers crossed, only improve, especially with somebody like David Raya pushing him and, you know, being as good a goalkeeper as he is. Ramsdale's going to have to match him or be better than him. And I don't think, no disrespect, I don't think Matt Turner was that goalkeeper that was going to push him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, just to finish this point off, I mean, Brendan is absolutely right. Like Martinelli was unplayable on Saturday, right? But if Martinelli had 2 or 3 games where he wasn't unplayable, Trossard is pushing him so hard, you know? So it's like, so, you know, you have to apply those standards in every position if you want to be the best, you know? And I think it's a good, and by the way, congratulations to Edu on the deal. The structure of that deal, I mean, Edu should be wearing a Dick Turpin mask. He has left Brentford with half a Sainsbury's in his rucksack, plus a loan for David Ray. I'm telling you, you know. Yeah.
He's got away from Brentford on black bets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, it's great to have a backup and international Spanish international as well, and with Premier League experience behind him as well. You know, indeed, Brentford, they talk very highly of him as well. So it can only be good news in terms of competition. You know, and we're strengthening in each position now, aren't we? You know, there's nearly 2 players every position now, which is looking good, and that's what Arteta wanted. So he's getting what he wants, and hopefully he backs it up. So best of luck to David Ray whenever we get to see him, which could be soon enough. We start with the review from our first Premier League game at home against Nottingham Forest. A 2-1 win. Eddie Nketiah and Bukayo Saka with an absolute howitzer, you could say. Absolutely brilliant. And we're getting so used to seeing him cutting in and hitting shots like that and go 9 out of 10 times going in. And Nottingham Forest goal was by 1. You caught a bit badly, you thought, but it was at a stage of the game where the legs were getting a bit tired, the first game of the season, so you kind of let that go. But really, aside from that, for this last, you could say, last 15 minutes was a bit edgy, but we looked a bit tired, but for the majority of the game, we controlled it. Aside obviously from the Urian Timber injury early in the second half, which looks a bad knee injury. I thought Nketiah has taken his chance really well again with Jesus out, the old fox in the box, took his goal really well. That bit of skill from Martinelli, the nutmeg and sending him was incredible. And then obviously Bukayo Saka, you feel sorry for Matt Turner. This is what he saw in training every day, But look, best of luck to him in his career with Forest. But look, after seeing Man City win the night before, 3 points was imperative to get off to a good start. We got 3 points, good home win. I'll go to you, Eamonn. You played the game. You were a solid enough defender. Can I ask you how you saw Arsenal defensively?
Well, I thought the overall performance was patchy, right? Patchy. I thought we knew how they were going to play, and I thought that informed the selection. So when you asked me about defensively, people were saying, well, Gabriel had 73 consecutive Premier League starts. Why wasn't he playing? I think we decided to play without centre-halves pretty much. That Saliba was the centre-half and that Ben White was picked because, as Brendan said, he's a wonderful footballer, Ben, And Ben White was picked because he stepped into their half much more so than Gabriel would and links up with Saka, with a kind of a telepathic understanding from where they played last season. So I think that's why that selection was made, that we knew Forest were going to play in what they call nowadays, Jesus, a low block. I don't know where that one came from. They basically, they played very close. They played a lot of players very close to their own, to their own goal. But I thought Saliba, his passing is normally quick and snappy, probably taking too many touches. I thought we were quick to get the ball out to Saka from the defence, but we weren't as quick to get it out to Martinelli, and I think that caused the problem. So, defensively, there was one sleepy moment in the first half where we all kind of ambled out, and we coughed up a chance that was made a complete meal of by Brennan Johnson. But look, other than that, defensively we weren't troubled. You see, the thing about it is, and I'll talk about other aspects of the game, but the question you asked me about was defensively. But the whole point about it is when you're playing a team and you're dominating the ball, 85% possession, you get your mindset goes into a certain way. Brendan, you'll know this from playing. Your mindset, you're on top, you're on top, you're on top. When they have a go, it's very hard just to turn around and then change your game. So it's very hard to make that adjustment. And when they had a go, they kind of spooked us a little bit. But that's because we'd had it so easy for so long. And I've seen that happen to Man City as well. I've seen Man City pulverise teams at home and be 2-0 up, and then they might nick a waxy goal or whatever. And City would be hanging on. That happens to the best of teams. So I wouldn't read too much into that. It's just that we had it so easy for so long. I think defensively, we conceded that goal because we were playing at the pace of the way we had played the game for 70 minutes, completely on top. And, we could have done more to prevent it, but we didn't. But we got over the line. There's other things I'd like to say about the game. I don't know whether you want me to say them now.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, look, as I said, the ball was too slow getting out to Martinelli, and he brought us into the game by taking on a player It was the first time that that we did that, and that's what made Nketiah's goal. But people will now begin to appreciate the range of Granit Xhaka's passing. And at the risk of being controversial, Declan Rice doesn't have that range of passing.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have it. And he won't ever have it. Plus the fact that Declan spent a lot of time out on the left-hand side, and he's a right-footed player. I know he can play with both feet, but he's predominantly a right-footed player, so his body shape is different. Granit Xhaka found Martinelli so many times on the inside channel, inside the full-back, off his left foot because of the way his body shape was, right? Now, I looked at Declan. Now, Declan gives you loads of other things that Granit Xhaka didn't. So I'm not down on Declan Rice. I thought Declan Rice was excellent and would be a brilliant player for Arsenal. But if you have him in that kind of advanced left channel where he spent a lot of time, he tried one pass inside the fullback, and I don't really remember, Brendan, in the second half, and he kind of overcooked it. That's because it takes longer to do that off your right foot in that position. So, but I've no doubts about Declan. Declan will be a brilliant player for Arsenal. And Havertz, it's about recalibrating how we play a little bit, I suppose. And they'll find their feet. They're good lads. So overall, it was okay, and nothing to write home about. But the way we won the ball back in the first half is very impressive. Martinelli was unbelievable. I know Saka was the
star boy.
Saka's a worldie, but I'm telling you, Martinelli's a worldie as well. He was just unplayable, So look, I remember when we won the Dublin in '98, we played Forest in the first game in '98-'99,
yeah,
and we beat them 2-1 at home as well. So,
can you name the goal scorers that night, Eamonn?
I think Overmars got the winner.
Did.
And I think Emmanuel Petit got the first one.
Did, from a corner, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Can you remember the Nottingham Forest goal scorer by any chance? He was
can I remember? Jeff Thomas.
That's the one.
That's
the one.
Yeah.
There's
Jeff
memory.
Jeff Thomas, yeah. My sister had a season ticket at Palace in the late 80s and early 90s. So Jeff Thomas would have been somebody I was very familiar with. I think he was linked with Arsenal a lot of times, that guy,
He was, actually, yeah.
But anyway, look, that's my take on the game. I won't delay the show too much.
Just a quick note, Eamonn, sorry, before I move on to Brendan. Would the injury to Jurrien Timber worry you at all? I know it's only early days in his career, but do you think that'd be a bit of a blow for us, or do you think Zinchenko and Tierney is good cover?
Well, of course it's a blow.
Yeah.
Of course it's a blow. But I see meltdowns going on. Look, if this had happened in January, Timber is out for 3 or 4 months, it would be no different than Gabriel Jesus having an injury, or anybody else, or Zinchenko, who cumulatively missed 3 or 4 months of the season last season, right? It's just because it was the first day of the season and he was new and looking so good, But look, Kevin De Bruyne is out for 4 months. These things happen. You have a squad. I actually don't think Tierney will be with us.
Do you not know? Do you think he'll go?
I think he'll look at Zinchenko and Tomiyasu on that side as cover.
Yeah. Yeah, Newcastle are getting closer to signing him, yeah, from what I was looking at on Sky Sports News, yeah. Brendan, you were at the game on Saturday. Before we go into the match, before we came on here, you were saying the whole e-ticketing was a complete mess, and what from people saw on the telly, it looked absolute mess. What did you make of it, Brendan?
Well, disaster, really. Like, I might bring it back a few steps as well, because I flew into Gatwick in the morning on the 8:15 flight. And so I had to wait about half an hour for a train at Gatwick, which is normally running every 10 minutes. Got to King's Cross, and they closed the barriers at King's Cross because it was too packed. Now, this had delayed me now till about 11:30 in the morning. And I'm like, 11:30 on a Saturday, what are all these people doing? So 15 minutes. And then I got the tube to Arsenal, which I normally don't do. Yeah. And then they wouldn't let us off the tube. They held the tube while they were trying to clear the crowds away. So, and then obviously I got up to the concourse, or the ground outside the ground, and it was pandemonium. And I had no idea what was going on. And I was trying to walk round to Turnstile 8. So I came across the bridge, and literally mobbed, couldn't move. There were queues out into, literally everybody was on top of everybody else. And it was like back into the 80s. It was like a crush. And it was 12:30, and then I obviously somebody said, "Oh, the game's been delayed," but then we got confirmation from one of the loudspeakers, so the game's delayed till 1. So we were there 10 minutes and we hadn't moved. And like, I turned around, there's a guy that sits in front of me, coincidentally was in the queue next to me or with me, and like I said, we're not getting in for 1 o'clock, not a hope. Like, we could just about see the turnstile, but there was like 10,000 people in front of us. And so I said, I thought, I was more worried. There was no panic. Nobody was pushing or shoving. Everyone was moaning and complaining, of course. But I thought if it had come up to 10 to 1, I think things could have started to get really dicey. It was that packed. There was kids. Nobody could move. You couldn't go forwards, backwards, sideways. And then they opened the turnstiles. They opened the gates next to the turnstiles, and everyone just flowed in. And I was in the ground then 5 minutes, 10 minutes before kickoff. But it was an absolute debacle. And why, as we were saying earlier, why this wasn't checked or they had a proper backup system. Like, we were told that the system had shut down at 12:10. So the backup should have kicked in, whatever backup they might or might not have had, I don't know. But it was really worrying, and it could have been an awful lot worse. Like, everybody got in, but there was also an issue with tickets. As you know, you have to use I've got a season ticket, so you've got to use your season ticket X amount of times a season to keep it, or they'll get rid of it. Now, living in Ireland, obviously, I use it as much as I can, and then I pass it on. But we went in to the ground. We went in through the gate, and then we was like, "Hold on a second. Will this?" I asked one of the stewards, "Will this register us for the game?" And they were like, "That I have no idea." So we came back out again and went through the turnstiles. But as I say, it was a worry, and it could have been an awful lot worse.
Can I ask you, Brendan, because I was curious about this, because I've noticed while phones are great and all that type of thing, when I go into my local Spar, if I see one of these guys taking out a phone to pay for 3 batch loaves and 2 toilet rolls, it does my head in, right? And I'm just wondering, were people rocking up to the turnstile and saying, "Oh, I have to load it onto what? I mean, wallet, I didn't know that. I have a thing about," and all of that type of stuff. I can only imagine.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, obviously, because they opened the gates, that didn't really become an issue. But there was a guy, we were chatting to everybody around you in the jam.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that was, I did know him from Adam, obviously, couldn't get Wi-Fi. So he was like, "I can't get it downloaded. I can't get Wi-Fi."
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, the Wi-Fi in the ground is rubbish. I've never even bothered trying. But I would have said that would have been a recurring. There would have been lots and lots of people in that same predicament, that they couldn't get Wi-Fi, so they couldn't get this.
And
you know,
the reason why I asked that question is because the next home game, okay, even leaving aside if the technology hadn't shut down, you are going to have a whole pile of people who will take a lot longer to get into the ground than they would have had under the old system, and it's going to cause chaos. I'm telling you, you know. I mean, the thing to do is if you put it in your wallet, you don't need Wi-Fi, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so I think they need to make that clear to everybody. Put it in your Google Wallet, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had it in there. Obviously, I'm not as technically wonderful as you, Eamonn, but
no, I'm rubbish, by the way.
But I had it there. But like some of the guys that sit around me, there was two of them had to go and buy new phones just so they could get this this ticket thing. But also, what was told to me from some of the guys that sit behind now, I don't know them, and they said they just used their normal season ticket, the card, and got in on the card.
Oh Lord!
What's wrong with
Yeah, it's
leaving
like,
it on the card? So,
or even the paper email with where the barcode is, mate. You know, it's all the one. You know, it's. I don't know if any other club actually does what we are doing.
But I know the reason behind it was ticket touting and stuff like this.
Yeah. There
was loads of ticket touts.
Was there?
Walking around in their usual places, the same people. You know, if you've been going for as long as I have, you know, the faces of these guys, they're still there. So How people can get in, I don't know. If it's meant to be all this technical jargon, but
yeah,
they were still making their money. So there's
Yeah,
there's always a way around things, and
Yeah,
these guys are away already.
hopefully, yeah. Look, I'm sure the next couple of home games are going to be a bit dodgy, but I think over the summer they should have probably done a few more test trials. While it was quiet, and but like everything, it's teething problems. And
They should have done it at a Monaco game.
yeah, I got into. I was sweating that I wouldn't get into there with the paper, and everyone in their hand had the paper slip. So
but anyway, back to the match.
You were at the match, Brendan.
I was, and
go ahead. What was your view?
It was interesting to see the defensive formation. Now, I'd actually read a couple of days previous that Gabriel was a doubt for the game because he had a niggle in training. Now, I know Arteta turned around and said it was tactical, and also defensively, as soon as they set up in their low block, they dropped right off, and we moved straight into a back three. And Saliba was pretty much the only centre half. Ben White came in, Partey moved back into midfield, and Timber was in there as well. So it was fascinating to see. It didn't really work because we were knocking that ball around really slowly, and we need to be zipping. And I could see Arteta down. Arteta's not too far away from me, so I could see him. He was going mad. He was like, speed it up, speed it up. And so he could see it. And every time he could pull the players over, he was trying to, get into them that need to be moving that ball faster. And you can tell once we move the ball fast, then we get things going. And it was just like it's a new team. There's 3 new players in there, and they need to gel. And I think it will come, but it was a bit. I thought the performance was a bit flat, and Nottingham Forest didn't really put much up to them, and I think that played into them a little bit because once Forest scored, we sort of turned it up a couple of notches and could have put the game to bed. But at the same time, we've only kept clean sheets very, very rarely at home in the last year. So even last season, midway through the season, we were conceding goals hand over fist at home, and I think we conceded 48 goals in the league last year, or something like that. Which is the amount of goals we scored, you can win a league with. The amount of goals we conceded, you can't win a league with. So I think that's our big problem, and it is an Achilles heel sort of thing for us. We just concede too many goals.
Yeah, we scored 88 Premier League goals last season in total, which was a good.
Which would win you the league. Yeah,
it's just as you said, when you concede too many, obviously the goal difference when you're up against City is not to kill you. Yeah. What was your view of the Bukayo Saka goal, Brendan? Was it a spectacular as what was it on telly?
I was right behind it, and I could see a little corner of the goal. That ball just angled straight in there. It was amazing. I think the commentators had said that they had a great view of it as well. And everybody down that side had an amazing view. We could see what he was going to do, and it was you get in there, son. So. Brilliant. Quality goal.
He's a great player to turn on the style, isn't he? When as you said, we were a bit slow up to about 29 minutes before the fourth. But him and Martinelli and Ketty and Saka brought something to the game. They just get injected it. They can just turn it on like that. Yeah.
I think Ben White plays really well with him, and obviously Ben White in a different position wasn't really pushing on.
Yeah.
With him there, Thomas Partey, no, he doesn't do that overlap as well as Ben White does.
Oh, Brendan, but on that, Brendan, I just felt that in the first 20 minutes when it looked as if we would be there till Christmas, 12 months before we'd score, the one bit of hope we had was how quick we got the ball to Saka. So all of the danger for the first 20 minutes. And Ben White actually took the law into his own hands and started doing the overlap.
Yeah, he did.
He was playing. Right, and all I'm saying is that Martinelli on the other side didn't get fed that quick ball that Saka did. Right?
Yeah. Because I think that ball's going to Havertz and to Declan Rice, and they just haven't clicked. They haven't got that relationship going yet.
That's what the point I was making about Granit. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think it'll come. You've got Declan Rice and Havertz, two quality football players.
Quality.
But that will click. I mean, Martinelli, just amazing football player. Like the energy, the levels he's got, and he's fearless. Same as Saka.
He runs at players, doesn't he? He's fearless, yeah. Well, Declan Rice, Brandon, he had a couple of good chances that were saved by Matt Turner. With what you saw being at the ground of our three new signings, Rice, Timber, and Havertz, were you impressed by them in the flesh? Can you see them? Can you see that blending in well with the squad?
Rice, I thought, was very good.
Yeah.
I really liked Rice, and I was at the Charity Shield game, and I thought he was quite quiet. I was more impressed with Havertz.
Yeah, you were saying that last Monday. Yeah.
And Timber just looks a good player. So he was on the other side to me in the first half. So I didn't get that much. And it takes a little while to recognise players and work out exactly who they are, especially with you. So I didn't really see that much of him. I was looking forward to seeing him in the second half, and then obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, but he'll be, as Eamonn was saying, he'll be a miss.
Yeah.
But we do have like he was bought as a right back.
Yeah.
And we have Ben White. You've got Tommy Asu, and you've got a number of young kids in the 21s that are getting rave reviews. So whether they'll sort of step up or not, I don't know. But it's he's been talking about he wants another defender anyway. The issue is now if Tierney goes, which like he wasn't even, we were wondering why he wasn't coming on. And we didn't realise he wasn't in the squad. So
it tells you what Arteta thinks of his plans.
Such a good football player, but just not the right style for Arsenal. So while you can make some money for him, let him go. It'd be sad. I'll be sad to see him go.
Arteta loves Tierney as his attitude and all of those things, but he just doesn't have the game that we're trying to play.
No, he's not a midfielder, which he's looking for a midfielder.
Exactly.
He's an old school left back, and it's unfortunate because his first season or two, I think we'll all agree he was super, wasn't he?
Yeah.
During the lockdown season and all, yeah.
Yeah, I think people actually doing the disservice calling him an old-fashioned left back, because he's not an old-fashioned left back. He is a very, very good left back. Yeah. Like, he's an attacking fullback.
Yeah.
And
for a team that wants to play with that setup, he would be the best in the business.
Absolutely.
He's quality. He's absolutely quality. But we don't
want it that way. So there's no good if you can't even make a squad, and you've got a right back, Timber, playing left back, and then you bring on another right back to play left back, as in Tommy Asu. There's something wrong. And you were talking about body shape there earlier, Eamonn, and there was a couple of times. Now, I know Tommy Asu can play with his left foot, but his body shape was all wrong, and he shanked balls out over into touch, this, that, and the other. And I think you need a left-footed player to play on that side. And I don't think Tommy Asu is good enough to play left back, in my opinion. He'll do a job there, but I wouldn't want to see him there for the whole season. And with Zinchenko's injury record, if they don't get somebody else in there, then you're going to see him an awful lot. And I don't think that's good for us, to be honest. So
whoever gets Tierney will be getting a good player proven as well from his days at Celtic. Done him the world of good, and I think he only improved even more under Arteta. Be sad to see him go. Because he's not afraid of putting his foot in, and he's 100% committed in every game. Even when he comes on as a sub. A bit of a worry with Timber. They're saying 4 to 5 months, but in terms of recovery as well, it could be a bit longer. Yeah.
Have they announced?
it's hard to know. I
Okay.
think they're done assess him, aren't they? They're done to send him to a consultant and then they'll give the final.
It's an anterior cruciate ligament injury, so it depends on whether it's.
How long would you be looking for Eamonn in that sense?
Well, you could be looking. You could be looking at if it's completely snapped. You could be looking at a year, right? But if it's not completely snapped, you could be looking at 3 months. You know, so it depends. They're a lot more sophisticated about how to deal with ligament. I mean, ligament injuries at one stage meant you were finished. You know, with the not anymore. So it's not the cruciate; it's the anterior, which is better. You know.
Yeah.
So look.
All going well.
They say 3 to 5 months.
Yeah.
Should De Bruyne is out for 4 months with a hamstring? I mean, I find that remarkable, you know.
Yeah, and he's done that a few times, hasn't he?
Sorry, Brendan, I missed that.
Isn't that off the bone like what you had back a while ago?
Well, that was I took my hamstring off the hip bone. Yeah, that was but the only difference with me, Brendan, without the medical team behind me, it took me 2 years to get up the stairs. But I still made a comeback with you witness, you know.
He's still a bit wooden there as well.
I'm still playing, you know.
Tell you that Berta Moretti is certainly oiled and muscled as well.
I could never do the show sober, you know.
Thank God for that. No, we wish Timber all the best in his recovery. Just unfortunate, but there's an exciting future ahead of him. I think we can agree.
This is the point I'm making. We signed him for 5 years. He's going to miss a few months. If that had happened in January, it wouldn't have seemed as shocking because we would have seen him play 20 games. The fact that it was his first game, you know, you kind of go, oh no.
The Chinks, yeah.
And after an almost flawless injury record at Ajax.
Yeah, because he was doing so well in pre-season. You know, it looked like he was going to be a constant starter as well. But look, these things happen, don't they? Look, it's just
though.
Yeah.
You know, as I said,
as you said yourself, Eamonn, the medical staff nowadays, they can work wonders on injuries now, can't they? You know, you can be back.
Yeah, but David O'Leary was right when he said it. You know, in my day, people played in one leg, so just get on with it.
Are you done to do the dirty saying? I could see Timber on the ground.
But it is. It's sad for the lad because without talking it to death, he seems to be a great fit for us, and he seems to have that great attitude that we were looking for. So look, it's a big loss, but we can't be having a meltdown. And again, I'm going to tell all the under 30s, it's not FIFA manager. It's not one player gets injured, get the checkbook out. That's not the way it works, right? Every team has to cope with injuries, you know, and this is no different.
Yeah. Eamonn, your man of the match from Saturday?
Well, I mean, it's obviously Bukayo Saka because he produced a world-class moment and blah, 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 blah. But I'm gonna do something left field now, and I'm gonna actually say, to me, Martinelli was unplayable. And he was the one that made the move, even though he got a bit lucky with that. But to try that piece of skill in the first place,
yes,
you know, like what kind of a Brendan? You played the game, right? I'm not sure I've ever seen you running down the wing, but I've seen you play the game, and I want to tell all the viewers, Brendan is a tidy player, right? But he's running down the wing at that pace. What gets into his brain so quickly to try that pirouette? Unbelievable. But not only that, he gave away a few sloppy balls, his ball recovery, his determination. So in terms of, Brendan said the performance, and I agreed with him. I said it was patchy, he said it was flat, it was probably both. But he was the one that was neither patchy nor flat. So for me, Martinelli. Yeah,
I have to say, just before I come on to your man of the match, Brendan, my own is Bukayo Saka, just before that last moment. He says, Eamonn says he didn't see you running down the wing too much in the Emirates 5-a-side tournament. I remember you running down the wing a lot. I have to say, I saved just from a lot of goals, being in goal myself. But
Brendan and I both have the Franz Beckenbauer approach. We won't win a race from A to B, but we won't start at A, Jonathan.
to say. You know your way
Wise
around
words,
them. Yeah.
Andy, wise words.
Now, can I get your man of the match from our flying winger, Brendan Boyle?
You know what? It's a tough one because I didn't think. Okay, I would agree. Martinelli and Saka stood out, but apart from that, it's a bit shifty all across the board. I thought Ben White played really well, and again, no nonsense, did everything as you know, to his usual standard. So, and there was a couple of really nice little silky skills bits that he did, and it was right down in front of me a few times, and I was like, oh, yeah. looking good. So I'm going to give it. I'm Saka got the award, but I'm going to give it to Ben White.
Yeah, and
Good call.
He's been he got a good few man of the matches last season as well, isn't he, Ben White? He only goes from strength to strength, really, isn't he? Under 20.
But he never wins the award. It's always glory. So
yeah, well, you see, it's interesting. You should say that, Jonathan, because he gets loads of awards on this show. He never gets any award on Sky or TNT or whatever the leading hell they're called now, you know. Right? And the reason is the fans love him. We're all fans.
Yeah.
We're all fans. We love him because, as Brendan says, he's a much better footballer than people give him credit for. But his attitude is unbelievable. Like, he took the law into his own hands when we were flat after 20 minutes and started making overlaps. When have you ever heard of an overlapping centre half? Except for you, Brendan. Right.
Brandon's getting all the applause tonight.
I'm taking it. You know what I mean? It's any compliment. Bring it on.
Well, Brendan
actually captured on TNT Sports as well. I must stick that photo up as well.
We'd like to remind all the viewers that the three people on the show played at the Emirates Stadium, you know, and I think that day, Brendan, that you and I invented this inversion role. I'm not sure we knew it at the time.
No, Eamonn, I think Arteta or Guardiola might have been up in the stands watching.
That's it, then.
What's going on here?
Funny enough, and it was a warm May day, but there was a bloke in a Mac up in the stand that looked suspiciously like Guardiola that day. I think we're onto something. Now, I think we've noticed that.
We might well be. He just maybe perfected it a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say he was looking to see how the goalkeeper played out from the back, but he went down like a credit union loan a couple of times. Yeah. So, you know, yeah.
I have to say, it was a very high compliment by Eamonn said there that we all played. I like to say I featured.
You featured. Yeah, you featured.
It's putting a nice spin on things. No, I have to say I carried the team that day. There were some stinking hangovers by everyone. So, to say the least, we didn't go very far.
We did all right. We
done all right, actually. Yeah, I won't take all the credits. Yeah, we got a podcast over, I suppose. So off to a winning start, lads. This brings us on to the preview then of our upcoming game on Monday night on Sky Sports at 8, away to Crystal Palace. We played these in the opening game last season. Martinelli got the opener and an OG from the Crystal Palace marquee. They won 1-0 away themselves. Odson Edwards got the winner against Sheffield United away. And since Roy Hodgson has taken over there last March, I think it was, they look fairly solid, very tough to beat. And he signed a contract for the whole of the season, which was a bit of a surprise. They lost Wilfred Zaha to Galatasaray in the summer. A bit of a loss for them. But I won't miss him with his antics, constantly diving and looking for fouls and all. But it looks like Michael Olise could be going to Chelsea, I heard this evening. Their only major transfer really was from Bournemouth, Jefferson Lerma. He's a decent enough player. It's hard to call this one, lads. You know, as Eamonn says, it's very hard to predict the result, you know, so early into the season. But Palace away is always a tough game, even under Vieira and previous managers. And you really have to be on top of your game, because that their home supporters can be hostile, and it can be, can be as tough as any away fixture. Eamonn nodding his head. Well, from what you're hearing the telly, it sounds hostile. You'd expect us to win. You expect us to be fresh, quick off the mark, like we were on the opening day last season against them. I'll go to you, Eamonn. How do you see the game?
Well, first of all, I want to correct you on Palace fans being hostile, because my sister nursed over in that area, and I used to go there a lot. So they were kind of my second team, And so I've been in the home end of Palace on many occasions.
Have you?
Yeah. I'm far from hostile. They're just noisy. They have fun. Palace fans have fun. And it's not a hostile place to go. It's just noisy. And the way it should be,
It Eamonn, from on the telly, it sounds like it's always constantly rocking. Is that
it's rocking? Always rocking. It's always rocking. But then again, like, they don't have aspirations to be in the top four. They don't have, they follow their team.
Themselves.
Their South London is wonderful and all that type of stuff. But it's a great place to go to watch football, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. It's very hard to call these games. But I think we were undercooked, and I think Brendan referenced that, for the first game, because new players and blah blah blah. We've another 8 days. And that's a lot of time on the training ground to do more things. So I think if our attitude is right, we win the game, and if it's not, we don't, because we've better players than they have. That's the only prediction I can make. If our attitude is right, we win the game. If our attitude is wrong, and you'd like to think our attitude has been right most of the time, so you'd hope. I mean, Arsenal know they're going to be in the game. They knew that last season when they went up there. If you remember the game last season, we had to drop on them for about 20 minutes. We got our goal around half an hour. And then for 15 minutes before half-time, they absolutely battered us.
That's right, yeah.
They battered us. And we were lucky to win 1-0 up. And then we got control of the game in the second half. So, look, get 3 points there. It's a good 3 points. But they're an athletic team,
They are. They're well built, aren't they? Yeah.
But that's... we have to look at it in a couple of ways. We give out about teams playing in a, inverted commas, low block. And Palace are a team that will come at you with athleticism. You've got to be able to take it anyway. If you're serious about yourself, you've got to be able to take it anyway. So let's bring it on and say Monday night game, good atmosphere, looking forward to it, I'll actually be in the UK myself at that. I don't have a ticket for it, so,
Yeah, it's thank God for Sky Sports.
I'm working in Birmingham that night, so we'll probably be in some pub in the middle of Plum, like, you get a kebab,
An old sarnie, or a pasties they call it there. Brendan, Palace have a couple of players to note. Eberechi Eze really shone near the end of last season for Palace, and Mark E, the centre back, and as Eamonn pointed out rightly, they're a very electric side and keep going till the end. And under Hodgson, they're very compact, aren't they? And they don't concede a lot of goals, I noticed, since he took over as well. How do you see the game going yourself, Brendan?
Well, it's going to be, every game is tough. There's no easy games. I think we all saw how easy games came and bit us on the arse last season. Now it gets real again. So, and like last season, I think Saliba won man of the match. So that sort of shows that they really do put it up to us, and I don't think they have any fear of us. I think they like playing against us. They're big, they're fast, they're athletic, and they like to, they like to get on the ball and run with it. They will give us space. Now, I think our forward line is very, very hot at the moment. Nketiah, I know he got his goal there at the weekend, but to me, he just flitted in and out a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I would prefer an upgrade at centre forwards, even ahead of Jesus. But I hope now with Havertz in there, Odegaard I thought was excellent at the weekend after a very quiet half an hour. Yeah, I think our attacking six are really impressive, and Trossard to come on or to start, like Trossard is just with the exception of the Brighton game, every game he's played he's been impressive.
He's amazing.
And again, he came on at the weekend and just took us up a notch. And I think Arteta has mentioned that players coming on, that's what he's looking for, and that's what he's getting. But I almost feel sorry for him not getting a start now. So I think he's pushing and pushing and pushing, and he can play in so many positions. He can play for Havertz, he can cover for Martinelli, incoming wherever. But I think as long as we're not silly in defence, I think we'll have enough firepower to get over them if we come out with the right attitude and get that ball moving faster.
Yeah, I'd probably go, to be honest. I think it'd be a tight game, in my opinion, lads. I'd be happy enough with a 2-0 win like last season, a clean sheet, obviously, and we'll do Ramsdale the world of good, just to start the season off. And in terms of quality, I think our squad is a bit more, we've a bit more to us.
It's a game I would seriously find room for Emil Smith-Rowe at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were saying last Monday, Eamonn, when he came on against Man City in the Community Shield, he did change it, didn't he?
Brendan and I had the similar contributions on the podcast group after that game. He did things quickly and simply.
Oh, bang! Yeah. Move. But what I noticed on Saturday as well, like they warm up just in front of me, and he was doing quite a big warm up, and I thought it looked like he was going to come on, and then obviously he brought Gabriel on because he was panicking.
Oh, they scored, yeah.
So
it's on to be
shut up shop.
Yeah, no, it's on to be another big game, but the Monday night games are quite good, First Monday night, yeah. And as Eamonn says, we've had 8 days to prepare, so you'd be expecting in a way, but it's very hard to call these games early on in the season. You have to take every team at their merit, don't you? Aside from Arsenal, lads, a new addition to the show. I thought I'd add some new content into it. The Irish Premier League watch. It was a good weekend, notably for Evan Ferguson again. 10 goals last season for Brighton. I heard Spurs were in for him, but it's paper talk at the moment. But
it costs more than Kane.
Yeah, 120 million I heard just to do the Caicedo. I know, Eamonn, you're a big Bows fan, and you saw him growing up, when he was when he broke on the scene at 13, 14, that goal against Chelsea. He's only grown strength to strength, really, under De Zerbi and Potter, but De Zerbi notably. Do you see another big season from this season, Eamonn, in the Premier League for Brighton?
I see several big seasons for him. He's got everything. He has everything, that boy. And he's a big, strong lad. He's got pace, but he's got guile as well. He's got a great touch, a great appreciation of the game for a player of his age. He has everything, and if he stays healthy, there's big things ahead of him. His father was a great player as well around League of Ireland circles, and he was proper. Bertie
Ferguson, yeah.
Bertie Ferguson, yeah. Not to be confused with a different Bertie Ferguson.
This Bertie Ferguson played for Coventry City, viewers, not the Rangers.
Well, he played around the League of Ireland as well. But no, he's that lad has everything, and I think I was listening to a rival show that's probably paid for by advertisements. Unlike saying that they were saying that like eight of the Ireland team now but has a chance of starting a Premier League game every week, and that's a step forward, you know.
It is, and I think a big credit has to be given to Stephen Kenny for the way he wants the game played.
Yeah.
I look, a lot of people. I know Brandon shaking his head. A lot of people take the piss out Kenny, but at least he's trying to play the game. Like none of this hoof the ball up the field and hope it comes off. He's trying to play it.
Aside from all that, I mean, regardless what, this is an Arsenal podcast, so let's not make it a Republic of Ireland one. But because I'd like to think that the people who listen to us have interest in other countries as well.
Yeah.
But I just think that where Kenny will always get credit for in my book is that a lot of these lads played underage when he was doing that, and no matter what happens at senior level, a lot of these guys have had developed their game there, and it's nice to see Albany getting into the Premier League and all of that type of stuff. So let's see. But
can you see Ferguson briefly, Eamonn? Can you see him scoring 15, 20 goals this season? 15 at least, you could say, couldn't you? If he gets to run the games.
Yeah. Well, Brighton score goals.
Yeah, all over the pitch.
Mm.
Yeah.
But he only came on as a sub though. He didn't start, did he? He
only
came
on for the last 15 minutes.
really.
Yeah. He's an impact sub as well. But he's like, for a young lad, he's happy to start whenever he gets a chance. But when he does start, but I notice he makes the most of it. He's out to impress for a certain place, Yeah, and he's
got to be careful. He's only 18 or 19 or whatever he is, isn't he? So
he's 18.
Well, Brendan, you know this from your love of, like myself, from Gaelic football. The game is no longer about if you're not in the first 15 or the first 11, you're not picked. Games evolve in different ways. So if you, for example, the way Forest came out with us the weekend, low block, you can't continue that for 90 minutes, right? The game gets stretched. So a fella like Emil Smith-Rowe, for example, might be a way better option, or Trossard might be a way better option to bring in and have 25 great minutes than an hour where nothing's really happening because the game isn't on their terms.
Yeah.
So the game has changed,
Arsene Wenger turned around and said, like, the optimum time to bring a substitute on was on 70 minutes, where the players that have started to tire. So you're hitting them at 100% where they're maybe at 85% or whatever.
Yeah.
And the two Forest substitutes that came on that scored the goal, that combined to score the goal, they tore up that pitch like a rocket, and it was like, wow, look at the speed of these two.
And absolutely, and Bukayo Saka, who's very quick, was trying to chase that down and couldn't get near it.
No. And surprisingly, I think Ben White was the last player, which I thought should have been Saliba, because that's how they were setting up for corners. They were sitting guys back, and Saliba was the last guy back a good few times. So I always think you want to leave your fastest player back for a corner. So
especially at that point of the game as well, At the end of the day, we got the 3 points, didn't we? And that's all. It's something to work on the training ground as well. In terms of the other Irish players, lads, just briefly, Nathan Collins, I thought that was a good move to Brentford under Thomas Frank. I think he can only improve there. Josh Connon at Burnley, Vincent Kompany, I think, has done a great job with him last season in the Championship, And Chidozie Ogbeni, as Eamonn mentioned, it's great to see him for Luton. He done really well at Rotherham, and I think he can only have a good season in the Premier League. So, as Eamonn says, a few good Irish players coming through a Premier League level again, thank God, and can only improve us over the next few years as international wise. Busy enough show, lads. Anything else Arsenal related or anything you'd like to mention in terms of the supporters club or anything?
No, not really. Just stop worrying about Chelsea. There's a meltdown on the podcast earlier on about Chelsea spending money. Sure, what of it,
It's Caicedo. He let himself down. He should have joined the Arsenal, but we'll break his legs. He'll break his legs in the season. No, you can look. we signed, I think, Declan Rice, far better signing than Moses Caicedo, so we got the better man. I'd like to thank Eamonn and Brendan for their contribution this week, lads. Much appreciated. You can catch our show on the Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel, Spotify, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, as always. Beyond the Last Man with Martin Stumble will cover the Women's Super League, which we hope to have back in the next few weeks. Thanks to our sponsors, LUCAN Housekeeping Services and Balance Sports Direct. And check out our friends at justarsenal.com. Pat McLaughlin, thanks for mentioning us every week. And of course, go to our official supporters bar in Dublin, the River Bar. I'm your host, Jonathan Giles. It's been a busy week, busy night. See you all again next week. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
See you.